We choose how to cope with trauma. My wife and I just watched on Netflix the documentary The Rachel Divide, about Rachel Dolezal, if I'm saying her name right, the woman in Oregon or Washington, that her ethnicity was that she was of European descent, but everyone assumed that she was African American. And there's so much psychology in it. You know, I've said in another video that when I size up other people, I don't size them up by, you know, how they look or their hairlines. I'm sizing people, I'm reducing people to psychology is what I'm doing. And as I watch this, I think, what can I learn from Rachel? And it's that once you learn her story, she had a lot of trauma in her life. She had a lot of messed up things. And the way she dealt with that trauma is the story that people know about. But like, when I see that, I have compassion, because I think, man, she went through a lot growing up. So if you haven't seen that, you can watch it and see what I'm going through. But something that they say in the documentary is people ultimately have a choice in how they deal with their trauma. And I think that's so relevant to what this channel is about, and me helping people with their processing hair loss or dealing with the fear of hair loss. We all have a choice in how we cope with our trauma in our lives. And it's very obvious to me. I say all the time, you know, with as many subscribers as I have, every time each individual one of you watches a video, you have a different experience of that. What I believe is that every time you encounter an interaction with another human being, that it's an opportunity to learn something about yourself. So I speak a message in a video and it gets translated into 4,200 different ways based on that perceptions of that person and what they're going through. But I truly feel, and I've said it so many times, that when you have trauma in your life that wasn't dealt with, you don't learn how to overcome such things as hair loss, which is why hair loss doesn't bother so many men and why it does bother others. We have a choice in how we cope with our trauma. And I think it's important that we recognize that and we take responsibility for that. I feel so much of what happens to people is they don't unpack that. On my other channel, Family Friendly Daddy Blog, I'm going to be posting a video talking about how what I believe is people who are addicted to things, whether it's alcohol or drugs or pornography, people who suffer from anxiety and depression, what I believe they all have in common is that they have had trauma in their life that they never dealt with. You know, do I believe an alcoholic physically and psychologically is addicted to an alcoholic substance? Absolutely. Do I believe certain people are more prone to that physically? Yes. But I also believe that certain people are prone to it more psychologically, people who haven't dealt with trauma in their lives. So I say this to remind all of you, when I'm trying to help you with hair loss, I'm ultimately looking at the psychology. Remember, you may reduce me down to a hairline and what thinning you see, but I'm reducing you down to psychology to help some of you who are able to hear it, that you can overcome this from within. Some of you will never be able to receive that message because ultimately you haven't been able to teach yourself how to overcome things. So you get stuck on the perception of the problem instead of the actual problem. But it's still a matter of how you cope with your trauma. And I think some people never really have enough trauma in their life, so when something as trivial as hair loss comes along, it seems like the end of the world. But ultimately, it's a choice. It's a decision that we get to make as individuals. And I think what happens is if we don't make a choice to overcome it, then the choice is made for us. And instead of being calm about it and practical, I think the default becomes a toxic viewpoint. It becomes chaos. And so many people who are in that chaos mindset can't get out of it. And it takes someone outside of that looking in to say, hey, you're standing in a bunch of chaos. Let's unpack this. what happened to you in your childhood. Talk to a professional about it. Deal with that. And deal with your pornography addiction, which older generations of men can never have the same kind of pornography addiction that younger generations have, because the internet didn't really exist until 1997, you know? And I'm the only one talking about this on the internet, how important this is, how this is crushing the psychological development of young men. And build on top of that the fact that there's undealt with situations. And I say trauma is whatever trauma is to you. You know, whether it's not having a father figure in your life and you having to sort this stuff out on your own, guess what? Don't you think I know that? Don't you think that I am aware of how few young men in America have positive role models who speak truth to them? I'm very aware of that. When I started this channel years ago, before it ever became a hair loss, I made a video reaching out to young men saying, look, I want to mentor you. I want to be the dad that you never had. I want to be the uncle you never had. Whatever it is that you never had that was a positive male influence, I want to be that in your life. Well, the pitch was wrong. The approach was wrong because no one watched the video. But when I talked about hair loss, suddenly people started tuning in. Okay, so this is what I actually, when I want to make a channel to help people, this is it. I'm fully aware of the fact that so many of you don't have a positive male role model in your life. I'm aware of that, and I speak to that in my videos the best I can. That's why I believe, and I'm totally cool with it, but there is a lot of negativity and a lot of aggression that shows up in the comments, and part of that's just having over 4,200 subscribers. But I think what happens is, I think I'm a challenging host. I think I challenge so many of my subscribers and viewers in ways they're not used to being challenged. Even the fact that I'm the one person in your life that says, hey, pornography is messing up your psychology and it's holding you back. Aside from religion, aside from morality, it's messing you up. See, who else in your life is telling you something like that, right? So I think that challenge, it's like I come across like a dad or something, the dad that you never had. And so you being the teenage kid are wanting to rebel against dad, you know? I think that's a lot of what's happening here. But I'm making this video too to remind myself. I'm kind of like the dad that some of you never had. And at this point, I think I need to make that its own video. Of course, that video will be a lot lighter in tone than this one. But hey, it goes back to the struggle of the creator for the consumer. Should I be real or should I be relevant? I think this video is a pretty good mix of both.